Okay, cheetahs, today you're going to learn how to DBQ. Now we're on to the body paragraphs. You're going to have one paragraph of 5 to 7 sentences, each per task bullet. This essay has 3 bullets, so you're going to have an intro, a conclusion, and 3 body paragraphs. You will have one paragraph each to focus on relations, similarities of the countries, and their geographical physical differences. Now I color-coded these in red, blue, and green. And you will follow along with markers, or you can make note cards as I go through the pieces with you. You can color code your facts so you know what source articles or pieces of evidence go with the paragraph you need. It's going to be very important that you read through these pieces, color code, and then write your body paragraphs. So you're going to read and color code now, and we'll write when we're all done. Here's your task again. You'll notice you're looking for 3 body paragraphs. Anything that has to do with geographical differences, we're going to highlight in green. Anything that has to do with similarities, we're going to highlight in blue. And anything that has to do with relations between the 2 nations, we're going to highlight in red. Let's start with document 1. This is a chart. What does document 1 have to do with Canada and the United States? Does this document give you information about how the 2 countries relate to each other? Does this document give you information that shows how the countries are the same? Does this document show you how the country's geography, the physical characteristics of the country, are different? So we need to color code this document. Do we say that this document is red because it shows about relations of the country? Does it show blue because it shows similarities of the country? Does it show green because it explains the differences in the physical geography of the countries? Well, this particular document demonstrates things about the government. So I know right away this is about the government. Now I have to look pretty closely. Is there anything that is the same on this chart between Canada and the United States? If it's about the things that are the same, then I should highlight them in blue. Is there anything about this about the physical geography? Well, we know right away from looking at this chart and reading the title that we're not going to learn anything about the physical differences of the geography. If I look closer, this does not give me any information about whether or not Canada and the United States get along with each other. So I can't use this document for relations. The last question I should ask is, does this document show similarities? Similarities means things that are the same. If there's anything that's the same in this chart, then we'll want to tag this particular document number 1 for things that are the same. Well, it looks like we have the same type of government. Now, it's true that they have a monarchy and we have a republic, but both of them are constitutional. So we can say that this is the same. Looking further, we can say here that both of the systems of government break up the countries into central and smaller parts, like provinces or states. So the system, the federal system, is the same. Both of the countries have a legislative branch. Canada calls theirs Parliament, and we use the Congress. So these are very similar. So yes, we can use this document for similarities of the countries. Let's go to the next document, document 2. This document is about Canada's multicultural population. Let's go through the same process we did before. We'll read through this and see if it goes with relations, similarities of the countries, or the physical geography differences. Canada and the United States have a good relationship. Well, that was easy. This is definitely about the relations between the two countries. So we can put a check here. We also learned a fact that Canada and the United States have a good relationship. Now we need to ask why. Well, let's see. Their 5,525-mile border is the longest unprotected border in the world. Well, that part of the sentence doesn't really tell me anything about their relationship. Although guards do check papers and inspect vehicles, right? But what does this part say here? Unprotected border in the world. If it is unprotected, then the two countries must trust each other. That's a really good part that supports relations. The US and Canadian economies are closely linked. The two countries have signed agreements to promote trade with each other. So we promote trade. There's two laws, 1989 Free Trade Agreement and the 1994 North American Free Trade Agreement. And from 1989 to 2004, the United States exports to Canada more than doubled and imports from Canada tripled. Well, this can be used only for relations. It is not telling us much about similarities and not explaining much about the physical differences. Let's move on to the next. Document 3, Physical Geography of the United States. At first glance, this map is only about the United States and will not prove helpful to us in figuring out information about relations, similarities of the countries, or the geographical physical differences. However, if you look closely, you'll notice that they have a picture here where there's a border and Canada is up here at the top. But a zoomed in photo that's right here shows us other parts of Canada and other information about their borders. This is interesting information because we can make comparisons. You can see here that this line right here represents the international boundary, as noted by the legend over here. Similarly, there's another international boundary between the United States and Canada here. If you notice these parts, the way that the information is broken up, you can tell that both Canada and the United States share a few things. You can tell that there's definitely mountainous areas. You can also see that there are some other similarities as well. There are many geographical differences also, because if you'll notice here, this is near the Arctic Ocean. And parts of the United States here, especially where Canada borders, you'll notice here that there's no water in between these two parts, but you'll notice that there are lakes. You'll also notice that these mountains that run here, some of these rivers, etc., that run up through here, you'll notice there's a river that comes right off of here that goes right into Canada. So there are some similarities and differences in the physical geography that one can learn from this particular document. So it's quite possible that these are the two areas you might use this document for. Document 4 is about the United States immigration. At first glance, this is just about the United States and talks a little bit about immigrants. If you'll notice here, immigrants were on the rise during this total period. You'll also notice all the different countries that were immigrated to the United States. This is going to fall into the category of similarities of the countries, because in document 5, you'll notice that this paragraph is all about the multicultural population of Canada. This has a lot of similarities with the slide before under document 4, which talked about the different types of immigrants and where that immigration came from different countries and how that has increased over time. Canada has also had quite a bit of influx of immigration that accounts for 50% of Canada's population growth as noted in this paragraph. So this is a similarity of the country. You'll notice that this document 6 is about climates of Canada. It will give you lots of information about how Canada has different types of plants, different types of areas, especially that are near the Arctic Circle, and how there's quite a bit of Canadians that live in certain areas and they stay away from others because the weather is so harsh. This is an interesting paragraph because you can learn lots of information about the geographical physical differences, weather and climate, impacting those. And if you know information about the United States, you can make that contrast and comparison and note that in your essay. At this point, we've read and we've color-coded, and now it's time to write. You'll notice I have a picture of a banana peel, because when you go to write these body paragraphs, you're going to focus on a banana peel. The word peel stands for making your point, backing it up with evidence that comes right from the primary source document you're using, explaining how the document or the evidence supports the point, and then link the point to the next point in the following paragraph. But how exactly do you go from these required bullets that are in your task to the actual paragraphs? Well, let's take a look at a paragraph and see how this peel method works. First, you'll state your point. Then you're going to support it with evidence. You'll explain the evidence, and you'll link to the topic. You'll notice that when someone started here and they wanted to state their point, they use a transition word. First of all, removing wild animals from their natural habitats is incredibly cruel. When kept captive, these beautiful creatures become bored and lonely. This blue area here, you're going to actually put in a particular sentence that gives you the document. So you're going to write something like, according to document number 1. Or, let's say at the end of this sentence, you got this from document 1, you can put a parenthesis here and just put a 1, noting that this particular fact came from document 1. Then you'll explain how these points relate back to your point, and you'll link this new sentence at the end to the next paragraph. There's many linking words in English that you can use. We talked about one of the words that you use on the previous slide, but you might be able to use other words like apart from this, or not only, along with, or in addition to, unlike, on the other hand, in contrast when you're talking about differences. Be sure to use linking words for each of the parts of the paragraphs that you need.